Hi, glad to see you there, Christian. I'm sure we'll have a few more people come by, and we are getting started about 8 or 9 minutes early today. And so those who come in, we have a couple more people have come in. Alyssa and Grant, glad to see you here as well. Thanks for being here. And I'm going to get us started. And those who come in a little bit late, they can get caught up on the front end. This is week 7, and the 2 class sessions are the 9th and the 11th. Let me step away for just a second. I need to I'll leave the door open. Anyway, I'm over here at BBC Lab, and of course, if you're not able to make it, that's fine. That's the whole idea of using this hybrid approach. Now, Chapter 7 is in Loudon is an excellent follow-up to what we talked about over in Chapter 6. But before we do that, I just want to do some simple housekeeping to make sure that we're all on the same page in terms of what's going on. We have an interactive session that is due today, and that interactive session, if I'm not mistaken, deals with the question of net neutrality, which is a very, very critical question in terms of what we can and cannot do with the internet. Then I had a hands-on project, and that's due on the 13th, which would, of course, be Friday. And that's project number 6. And that's it's project 711 on page 296. Okay? And you'll see it there. It's using web search engines for business research. And they ask you to do, compare Google versus Bing. Okay? And if you want to add a third or fourth one in, do so. Now, what I'd like you to do is, search a topic, show me some print screens, copy, and throw them in a Word doc. You might, if you want, build me a table to give me some idea, but just show me the initial results, and I don't care what you do the search for. In fact, you could try a number of search engines, but I'm most interested in seeing how Google does versus Bing. So that is due, as well as the Chapter 7 exam, and we'll pop back here for a moment, and that's due on the 13th as well. Now, as you are aware, we come into week 8. Okay, week 8 is, of course, the week of fall free days. If I think I'm pretty sure it is. And let me check that for just a second. Do any of you know if next week is fall free days? If you do, pop me a chat. I can't believe it. You're students and you don't know when fall free days are? Oh, okay. Here's somebody knows. Okay. All right. Good. Well, let's talk about how I'm going to handle that. Now, as usual, we have a Monday and Wednesday presentation. Monday will be just like today. I'll be here in BBC, and I'll do this live through whoever wants to show up for a ground-based experience. But now Wednesday, okay, I'm going to do a pre-recorded session, all right? And hopefully my goal is to have it done by the end of the week. So if you want, you can work ahead in week 8, and you can get your work done, or at least take the chapter quiz, whatever. But I'm going to do what I can do to get to make sure that next week, okay, which would be the 16th, the 18th, that the session for the 18th is pre-recorded, okay. And I'll probably send everybody a message out to let you know about that. And that I have 2 classes on Wednesday. I have this class, and then I have also management science, and those are virtual classes anyway. But again, I will probably pre-record them, and I'll send everybody a message out about that. Well, Chapter 7, as I mentioned, is a good segue into Chapter 7. It was Chapter 6. Pardon me, was a good segue into what Chapter 7 was all about, okay? And the bottom line is that that no matter how good all those database tools are, and no matter how good those dashboards are, And no matter how much business intelligence they can give us, they have to have an infrastructure underneath them to support them. And so the textbook talks about telecommunications, the internet, wireless technology, and all of this is just been an ongoing process, an ongoing evolution of various ways to connect people, and then the development of network technology, which really saw things take off. And so the textbook walks you through all the different types of networks that are out there, packet routing, what that's all about, and all of those technologies that are available, server technologies. The ones that I think that for you as a decision maker probably are the most intriguing or the most useful are those that give us, especially those that give us real-time data about what's going on with a product, a service, or the movement of people, etc. So I think that part of the chapter is really the most important for you. And what we're seeing more and more is that business data are real time, and the simple truth of it is when people purchase things today, they're more than likely to use a credit card or debit card, which is an automatic which is by the speed of light. They have apps on their phone to buy things. They buy things if they sit at home on the computer. So we're moving away from that time when someone would come in and they give you money, and then you put it in the safe, and then at the end of the day you count up the thing and see how much you had. And so we're seeing a real change or a revolution in the way business is conducted. And I'm convinced that we're not too far away from a point where we will track. Well, we do. We track the markets on a real-time basis, and I think that what we're going to see is that annual reports and earnings reports, etc., that they'll become things that companies are issuing on a daily or a weekly basis. I think at a certain point the idea of a quarterly report will just the data will be too old for everybody's needs. So chapter 7 walks us through and builds upon chapter 6 by talking about how telecommunications and networks have been developed. They walk you through and give you a lot of really useful stuff. I think one of the most useful pieces in the text is figure 711 that shows you the top web search engines in the United States. And search engines have really changed everything, because what they've enabled us to do is to combine a dictionary with a phone book, with a map, with all kinds of things that help us find stuff or find people. And then I can't even begin to convey to you how much it's changed, say, the entertainment business, where now with this internet, with the ability to stream things, people like Hulu, people like YouTube, they're in the game, and they have the ability to stream events, and that cuts down their distribution costs enormously. Same thing with phones, and so the chapter 7 walks us through a lot of the just the nuts and bolts of how data are physically transmitted, the modem, packets, how the packet system speeds things up and lets us find things. And again, the whole notion of this is so you have a sense of how your network, your company, what it's plugged into, how well it works, etc. And a lot of this is really, especially the question of net neutrality, is in the hands of people out there, especially business people, who use these tools. And I think that it's going to be interesting to see how it plays itself out. The whole idea of net neutrality is this: that anybody can access anything on the internet, okay, and that they don't get bumped off, and they don't get bumped off because they're using too much data, and that means it's net neutral, okay. So, and now that doesn't mean you get everything for free. So if you're downloading huge amounts of data or uploading huge amounts of data, you're going to pay a price one way or the other if you have an all data plan or you're a big company, whatever. Now, layered on top of all of the stuff the textbook talks about is, of course, this notion of the cloud. And really, when we talk about the internet and the World Wide Web, the internet, I make the mistake of using them interchangeably when they're really not. The internet is the physical stuff that we use to transmit data, all the way from, this computer that I'm at here in Bailey, and the screen and the software that you guys have got that you're looking out there. I saw a few more of us join. Glad to have you here. And this idea of computing on demand, bring your own device, the term people use, ubiquitous computing, means that they're really the separation between what we used to say, I'm offline versus online, is really, for all intents and purposes, has just disappeared. And even if you have your cell phone setting there at home, it's transmitting data or receiving data. So chapter 7 builds upon chapter 6 by talking about the stuff that underlies this, the technologies, especially the network and the communication technologies. Now, let me close this door for a sec. I've probably shared this example with you before, but back in the 1950s, Citibank, okay, decided it would start to engage in international banking, and here's how they would do it. They would have this is about the time that the transatlantic phone cable was laid, and large phone cables were laid between the United States, South America, and then into Asia. There was a whole period of time in the 50s after the Second World War when people began to connect using these humongously big cables that they'd drop in the ocean, and then you'd make a phone call. Now, of course, we think that's pretty quaint because now we have satellites that we can bump signal off and down, and we have also continued to use those cable technologies that are out there. The cables are buried deep in the ocean, so shipping won't bother them or anything like that. But the whole, my point is this: we moved away from that very, very rapidly, especially with the advent of satellites that can handle telecommunications, and also honeycombed into almost every developed country incredible layers upon layers upon layers of networks of all kinds, all shapes, all sizes. So that's been an enormous development and has really changed things. So 7 builds on 6 by talking about the tools that enable us to create business intelligence data, to see it, to get it in the very first place. Now, we talked some about the interactive session number 3. That's over on pages 270, 271, and that's the issue of net neutrality, okay? And I'll be interested to see what everybody turns in on that. Let's do on today. And then the hands-on project, let's talk about it for just a minute. That's over on page 296, okay? And that's project 7-11. I'll talk about it for just a moment. And that's the one where we're going to do, of course, as I mentioned before, the search and using search technologies, okay? So again, that would be shouldn't be that difficult a thing to do. Then of course you have an exam on chapter 7. Now, to just kind of walk us through, and seeing even more of us join, so I'm glad to have you here, and thank you. Let me sure see. I've got Alyssa, Dalton, Houston's here, Christian, Libby's, and Martin, and let's see, Sam, Shane, Yamil, and well, okay. Well, you're kind of getting the hang of this. You're understanding this. This is kind of interesting, isn't it? Nice to be able to not have to clamor into the classroom. If you go where you're at, eat your lunch, whatever you need to do. That's the whole idea of this. And if you want to be in here, you could. That would be your call. Now, in terms of our housekeeping, I also want to make sure that we, as I mentioned before, all of you who have come in a little bit late, which is okay because I started early. Next week, okay, for Wednesday, all right, I will probably have a pre-recorded session, all right? In fact, I have 2 classes on Wednesday, Management Science and MIS, and it's my intention to pre-record something so that if you want to see it and you want to deal with stuff before you go on break, do so. I would do that if I were you, and I'd look ahead to week 9, and if there's a quiz, an exam, whatever's got to be done, I'd get that stuff taken care of so that you don't have to mess with, okay? You don't have to mess with rumbling around and getting out of here so you can go have your fall free days, because there's some of you, maybe you're traveling, maybe you're athletes, you're headed somewhere, I don't know. But I know that, Wednesdays around here before fall free days are like a ghost town. Same thing during Thanksgiving. So I understand that, and I will try to have, I will have a couple of screencasts ready for you to take a look at. So we've gone a little bit of time here, okay? And again, this week we're talking about this interactive session on net neutrality. As I mentioned, I'll be very interested in seeing what everybody comes up with. And then this hands-on MIS project that's due on the 13th, okay? And again, that's the one we're going to be comparing, okay? Google and Bing. If you want to throw in some more search engines that are out there, feel free. There aren't too many of them left, and primarily because of Google's enormous dominance. And as I'd mentioned to you there in chapter 7, over on page 279, figure 711, they show you the top web search engines in the United States. So, hey, I'm okay if you took Google, Microsoft, Yahoo, and Ask and ran and did a search and saw what kind of returns you got or content that you got back or top search results, okay? And the text does get into some areas that I think are really important, and those it's all really over in pages 278 to 281, and that's search engine optimization, search engine marketing. Frankly, I've got to tell you, I just don't have the experience to speak to that. That's not something I've done, and so I'd have to tell you in that sense, you'd be wise to read the text, and if it's really something that's interesting to you, there are courses out there for free that you can take out in places like Coursera, where you can learn about recommendation engines and search engines and how they work. I have a pretty good idea of how they work because, I understand databases and database technology, and I've worked with them. But, okay, it's one thing to work with that, and it's another thing to be working in an e-commerce package, which is what most of them are. If we had someone that had the knowledge, and we could offer everybody a course on just Google AdSense, the people who got that class would have such a valuable set of skills Same thing with SEO, search engine optimization. So I have to admit it's not something I'm that knowledgeable about, but it's there and it's important, and it is absolutely vital, because if you're dependent upon traffic and you don't play well with Microsoft, you don't play well with SEO, it can really it can cripple your business or hurt it, especially if you're trying to sell stuff. If you're selling stuff online and you have no physical location, you're just basically an e-tailer. Okay, well, that said, I want to take a little bit of time to talk about Chapter 7, and then I have some resources that I had gotten pulled together that I thought would be useful for you. And I like to, and I apologize in the sense that, you know, this is rather didactic for me, just, well, look at this and look at this, look at this, but it's the nature of this course. And it's because this course is really more conceptual than anything. And to walk you through how, you know, what a metropolitan area network is, what a LAN is, packet technologies, telecommunication technologies, how they hook things all together, et cetera, ad infinitum, is helpful for you to know, and might be helpful for you to know. But on the other hand, you know, I don't know. I have yet to really see the strategic value is does it work, and does it work for you? And I really think, I know that's very simplistic, but that's really about all I could possibly say. Now, we all know when the network goes down, everybody's angry. And all of you probably at home, probably have a home network. You didn't know that. You have a router set up, and you have an ISP, and you know, maybe you've cut the cable to, you know, maybe you've cut the cord to cable and you're out there, or maybe you still have cable like I do. I don't know. But you have that network. When you get in your car, you're part of a network there too. So again, this whole notion of just all different types of networks designed to do different things is what really gives the World Wide Web and the internet, for all intents and purposes, a really robust, very, very malleable kind of platform to do all kinds of things. Now, the text talks about, you know, Web 3.0 and the semantic web and all that business, okay? And we do know that we are coming to a point where people have grown somewhat. People have grown somewhat accustomed to doing a lot of communication with typing and writing, and things are moving, and this is just a question of volume, i.e. broadband, to the point where you post something on Facebook, it will be it'll be a vocalization. You'll speak, and they'll record you know, your voice. There, of course, you can do that now if you want, and you can put, if you want to say Merry Christmas to everybody, you can put a Merry Christmas video on YouTube and send everybody over there. But short little snippet things, like what everyone's doing with Snapchat, okay, and Instagram, that's going to become more and more and more the norm, and will move away so much from what is text messaging. So we'll see a future of that. I think the most critical thing for you out there as a decision maker when you run a business is going to become this question of net neutrality. I think that's number one. Number two is going to be certainly an issue of privacy. That's a big one. And I think number three is just going to be simply a question of how visible are you on the internet? How visible should you be? And how do you design your e-commerce front office and back office to meet your needs? Now, the chapter talks about the underlying infrastructure for that to happen, okay? And our advances in that regard are probably much, much faster than the advances we've had in things like spreadsheet technologies, database technologies, data visualization technologies. We just haven't caught up because it's easier to work with stuff than it is to work with human beings. Well, I went through chapter 7, and I wanted to just point out some things that I thought were probably exceptionally important to you. And of course, you know, I've mentioned it, and that is obviously the top web search engines in the United States. And just for kicks, let's do this for a moment. Let's just see what people searched for. And so we'll go to Google. We'll go top 10 search terms. Okay. The 100 most popular Google keywords. And let's see what they are. Time has the most popular keyword. And this is an infographic. And here you go. Now this is 26 to 50, and of course they go on further. Okay, and you say, well, why would I care? Well, you would care because if you are wanting to drive traffic to your site, you're going to need to be aware of these kinds of you're going to need to be aware of these, okay, in how you structure your online ad. And that's how Google makes their money, and they work with you, but you have to be very good. And let me say this, placing ads online, okay, it's like, you know, a professional driver closed course, don't try this at home. Get a professional person who knows what they're doing to put that together for you, and who's been significant and who's been able to have a significant impact. Well, I think it's an interesting website there. See, you can take a look at those and see. Now, for me also, chapter 7, another key piece is over on page 277, and that's called a virtual private network. You'll hear people use the term VPN. OBU has a VPN, which enables me when I'm remote to go to the VPN, log in, okay, and I'm in a protected environment, okay, and when I'm working on their computer, I do that because it's their computer, okay, and they have every right to keep it protected. So I go in to the VPN and I basically sign in. You'll go to work for people that have VPNs, and basically what they are is they kind of create a tube, or you could call it a container, that uses a high level of cryptology, which makes it just virtually impossible to penetrate and to get into the system. So since you have that VPN and everybody's connected, you just have a lot more security there in terms of the transmission and reception of data. So that's when I think that's extremely important for you to see. Now, in addition, over in chapter 7, I think that as they walk you there on page 7-9, and they talk about VoIP. This is Voice over Internet Protocol. This has really revolutionized the phone industry. You do VoIP when you use your cell phone. The university uses VoIP. When I first came to work here, okay, in order to make a call outside of Shawnee, or even really outside of Shawnee, I had to go down and get a permission code to enter the code. Now that we're hooked into a server and we use voice over internet protocol, in other words, we're transmitting data over the internet, I don't have to do that. I can call anywhere, and the costs are so low because we're using the packet technology of the internet to transmit that data, which is a far more efficient way than just simply using a landline, as would have been the case back in the good old days when I had to go get the code and enter the code before I could make a phone call. And VoIP also lets us do a lot of things. The key thing is, and the authors don't get into it, but I think it's been a truly big change, is that it allows phones to be a very agnostic platform, meaning my phone is really as close to a stationary cell phone as it can possibly get. I can do all kinds of things with it. I can save messages. I have far more storage capacity. When someone calls, I get an email and it tells me I got a call. Accessing the thing remote, not a big deal. So VoIP does this at a much lower cost. So those phone transmission costs have come down significantly for companies. And you know, all you have to do is just, you know, put another phone out there and assign somebody an extension, and away you go. So that's important to know. The client server structure there on page 273, that certainly is worth your time and your energy to just take a look at. Again, these are developments that just keep getting pushed further and further and further as chips get smaller, as we're able to push data faster, and it's just going to continue on, and who knows where it's going to end. Now, I went ahead and said, okay, I'm going to take chapter 7 and try to show you some of the more practical uses or more practical kinds of things that are happening out here that are of use. And by the way, you know, I'll also mention this: the chapter does an excellent job of talking about Bluetooth and what it is. And let me just give you a quick example. I have Google Chrome at home. Okay, it's just a little stick. I put it in the HDMI on my TV. I can cast from my computer to my TV. It has completely changed all of my viewing habits, because there's a lot of stuff on YouTube I can see. And then I have movies. I like to go over to like Turner Classic Movies and get those. I can take sporting events and cast them over there. And it's just unreal. And Google Chrome is really nothing more than a Bluetooth-enabled device and a piece of software that you download, and away you go. So I think it's one of those incredible little tools that's out there. Now, and I see we've had quite a few of us join, so I'm glad to have you here. Now, I want to walk through some resources that I found for you, and I would certainly encourage you to take a look at them. And you may not be seeing, so I probably need to go ahead and publish them, and I will. As you said, what is he talking about? Because it's not showing up on your screen, but obviously it is on mine. And so I'll publish these, and we'll take some time. Now, again, when I show you these things, or cite them or provide them here, my expectation is you'll go over and take a look, read, and not real thoroughly. I don't give you quizzes over these, but to let you see even a little bit more practical usage of those. Now, this is a really interesting article. It's a roundup on the Internet of Things, okay? And market estimates, got some excellent data in it. And it's from Forbes, if I'm not mistaken. And they give you a good idea of what's going on and how. And if you take a look at that, this is what I really wanted you to see, because I think it's just incredibly smart use. This is a heat map, a thermal, if you will, of key Internet of Things opportunities versus industry. By industry and application. And you can see that they've got those cool, warm, hot, hotter, and hottest. And then they also give you some data from McKinsey and Company, the world famous consultants, on what's going on. But you can see, okay, where there's just all kinds of uses for these types of technologies. And so when we talk about the Internet of Things, we're talking about everything from my car, when I drive it over here, every single time, okay, if I get out of the lane, it gives me a little bump, on the behind, and that data is stored somewhere. And one of these days, probably when in 20, 30 years, I think, insurance companies will tailor insurance completely to you based on your driving habits. They'll have it code because they'll know the sensors will tell them. And so I think it's, when we talk about this idea of Internet of Things, one can only imagine what that's going to be like. But this is a good article, and the potential economic value of them, okay? And this, again, this is what's important for you to see is this. There is rapidly becoming no such thing as being online or offline, okay? And I would say right now, every person who owns a cell phone, whether they know it or not, is online. You're online because your phone can be tracked. Your phone leaves breadcrumbs. And I think I showed all of you one day here, maybe it was the database administration class, I went into my Gmail, then I went to my maps, and I showed everybody my timeline. So where have I been today? How long was I there? How much did I drive? What are the places I went to? So you're not offline. You're online. You just don't know it. And this is something that's going to be a great challenge for all of you, because that's a great business opportunity. At the same time, it's some real problems just begging to happen. Well, that I think is a nice article for you to take a look at, and we'll pop back over to some of these other resources I have there to share with you. And again, I'm not going to give you a quiz on them, but I think there's some interesting things. This is an interesting little tidbit about sensors and cars, and what is the future of cars, how sensors will change them, okay? And some of these things like warning devices, etc., are already there. Gesture recognition, that'll be something that will change. 3D mapping of the traffic situation. My vehicle, my wife's vehicle, pardon me, has cameras that operate while she's driving. So she can see behind her, to the sides, and in front, although obviously she's in front. But now when she drives, she'll have 3 of her 4 cameras on. Now, it wasn't really designed for that, but she likes that because she can see, especially when she comes to a stop, she can see, who's coming and how fast they're coming, etc. And she likes the side thing. And so that's just one of those types of things that we're seeing, and those data are stored and they're transmitted somewhere. So I wanted to let you see that, which I think is just a really, really interesting article. And we'll go back over here. I've got several things here for you that I want you to see. And here's the link to FedEx, to tracking UPS. It's a normal thing now for people to buy something and then they get a tracking data, or they mail, or they send something to UPS and they get a receipt that says, and they can go online and track the package. 15 years ago, that was a novelty. Not anymore. It's just an expectation that's there. And so you can kind of track what's going on. FedEx has its own version, okay? Now, I found this, which I think is absolutely fascinating, okay? And I'll take over. This is Climate Field View. And what these folks do is they utilize sensor technologies, drone technologies to monitor large farming operations. The sensors can tell them ground temperature, can give them an idea of how moist the soil is, can give them an idea if there are pests. Drones can take drones and put them above fields. And farming today is a big business. To be in the family farm of long ago, they're still out there, but I'm going to tell you right now, they've got millions, probably tens of millions of dollars tied up in equipment. land. You have to be able to produce at a tremendous scale. And this climate field view, okay, is intended to let you be able to monitor what's going on out in the field and handle large scale acreage. So this is one of those examples of the Internet of Things where they can be really tremendous game changers. We'll go back to the other. Got some more here I wanted to show you. This is an article about the rise of the smart city and what cities are doing to utilize the data they collect to manage everything from traffic flows to trouble with the sewers, you name it, and they're gearing up to be able to monitor this stuff and deal with it. And this is an interesting article. It is from WSJ and does provide you a good overview, okay, of what's going on, okay, and just how they're going to use mapping and all kinds of things to try to improve the quality of life for citizens, see where problems are, where things are not, etc. And it's a good article, and it just really, it makes you go, wow. And the interesting thing is that this is kind of a grassroots thing that has started in cities that are concerned about making sure that they're well managed and making sure that they can deal with crime, they can deal with traffic, etc. So I think it's one of those that you would want to take a look at for sure. I'm gonna pop over here. Some of the things I do are just ingenious. This is from PC Magazine, and talks about the best smart home devices of 2017. And they have a whole range of these different devices you can use to manage your home and manage the environment, your climate, the temperature, all this stuff, security. It's just a whole list, a laundry list of things. And it really is, it's fascinating reading, okay? And all of them have what I thought was, the thing that really got me, we all know about that, and what down here is this, keyless entries into your home. When we remodel our house, the people there we bought our doors from Lowe's, and they asked us, do you want a keyless entrance? Okay. Now, being who I am, I should probably say, oh, that would be so cool. And I think my wife wanted, no, let's just do a key. And if I want to put in a keyless, later I will. Or I just put in a code, okay, like I do. Now, my vehicle and my wife's vehicles are already training us in terms of being a biosensor, because that's what I am. When I park my car out here in the parking lot and I walk away, I get a certain distance, boom. I hear the beep, the car is locked. I come up to it, the car unlocks. And I come up and I touch it and it unlocks. It boggles my mind. But again, these types of things like locks and home security system, particularly locks that are unkeyed, are really going to be, I think, the wave of the future. Now, right now, at my house, I have a garage door opener, obviously, but I also have on the side of my garage, and maybe your parents do, a little locked pad, okay, where I can hit a code and it will pop open, and then I can enter the code for my garage door to go up. Fantastic. Really nice stuff. Well, they're giving us an ad, so let's get off their website and run away from them real quickly. Again, some more things. Here's something interesting. This is an internet speed test. Okay, and this is put together by the Oklahoma State Regents of the Oklahoma State Regents for Education. I'm going to go and see how fast we are. Now, why they're doing this, I don't know. I really don't know. But for some reason, they are letting people, maybe they want to sell us all hamburgers or something. I don't know. but this is from the state, Oklahoma State Regents for Higher Education. And it's fun to come over here and just see, what I got 44 meg seat. Now here's an interesting thing. I'm over at 44 megs, okay? When I go to my office, I ran the same one, I was at 26 megs, okay? So considerably faster on the Ethernet than I am on here. Well, I thought that would be something interesting for us to take a look at it. Again, you can do that, and the way it does it is very simple. It uses my IP, okay, and then snatches some data, sends it up and down, gets me the speed. Here are three final things I want to show you, and we started early today, and it's 2:36, and I think we've gone, and I on the back end I'll make up the time so you've had a full 150 minutes. Okay, so have no fear. I've got some things coming up for you for Wednesday that will certainly take care of that. The first is this rush hour in the skies, and you have all probably, I would bet you, used an app to find out what's the status of your flight. This is a real-time map that shows you every plane in the air at any given time, and you could see the air traffic runway highways in the world. You can see where they're all clustered. Okay, they give you a nice little schematic here of the types of planes. Are these, I guess are they commercial? Are they cargo? Give you a nice little schematic, shows how these things are guided in, etc. And again, they had some data, and that they were showing, had some data on here that shows, I think this is from